Dear students, today let us discuss about the physiology of nerve. Part 1. The nervous system is a derivative of ectoderm. Structurally and functionally, the unit of the nervous tissue are neurons. All of you have studied the structure of neurons. Now, let us see the cells of the nervous system. There are basically two types of cells found in the nervous system. First, which is called as the neuron, and the second one, which is called as the supporting cells. The human brain contains approximately 100 billion individual neurons. Behavior depends upon the communication between the neurons. So each neuron is composed of mainly two parts, the cell body and the cytoplasmic processes. These cytoplasmic processes are slender and elongated structures which are further divided into two types, that is the dendrites and the second one is the axons. The dendrites receive and convey impulses to the cell body, whereas axons convey impulses away from the cell body. Now, when we talk about the supporting cells, there are the supporting cells which you see in both central nervous system as well as peripheral nervous system. The cells which are found in the central nervous system are called as neuroglia or glial cells, which are further divided into astrocytes, microglia and ependymal, whereas the cells which are found in the peripheral nervous system are of two types, satellite cells as well as the Schwann cells. And when you discuss about the neuron types, there are different types of neurons and it can be classified in different ways. They are based on the cytoplasmic processes, and secondly, the division is based on the presence or absence of the myelin sheath. So basically, based on the cytoplasmic processes, the neurons can be classified into three types. First one is the unipolar, second one is bipolar, and third one is the multipolar. In this diagram, you can see this is the unipolar neuron, this is the bipolar neuron, and this is the multipolar neuron. And based on the myelin sheath, there are two types of neurons. One is the myelinated neuron and the other one is the non-myelinated neuron. This is the myelinated neuron. As you see, the axon part is covered by a special type of sheath which is called as the myelin sheath, which is absent in the non-myelinated nerve fiber. So this is the main difference between the myelinated and the non-myelinated nerve fibers. Now we will discuss about the different types of neurons based on their function. Basically there are three types. Firstly, sensory neurons, interneurons and the motor neurons. The sensory neurons are the ones which receive information from the peripheral nervous system. Now you see in this diagram, this is called as the sensory neuron. These are the peripheral nervous system from which the nerve arises here, and this receives the information from the peripheral nervous system and it passes on to the brain. Secondly, the motor neurons. So these motor neurons send information from the central nervous system. So this is the motor neuron which sends the information from the central nervous system to the muscles. Now these two, that is the sensory and the motor neurons, are connected together in the brain, or you can also say that the message is passed on from or within the nervous system from the sensory to the motor. Here you see this is the interneuron which passes on information on in the central nervous system. Now this is like a connecting link between the sensory and the motor neuron, which you see it in the central nervous system. Now let us study the structure of neuron. So this is the structure of a neuron, which is a elongated structure which is basically classified into three types. This is the cell body, this is the axon, and these are the dendrites, which are also called as telodendrites. These, the cytoplasmic expansions which you see in the cyton are called as the dendrites. Similar ones which you see at the posterior end of the axon are called as telodendrites. So here you see in this diagram, you see it consists the cell body, or the cyton consists of a single large nucleus in the center, and this, or you can say on the other side of the nucleus, you see it in the cell body there are Nissl granules. These are the Nissl granules, and this cyton gives rise to number of lateral projections. It gives rise to number of lateral projections, and these projections are called as dendrites. So one of these dendrite further elongates into a long branch which is called as the axon, and this axon again in the end it branches off. It branches off into few branches, and these end in the telodendrites, and these also end in the end bulbs. Now you can see this axon is also covered by a special sheath which is called as the myelin sheath. So this is a myelinated nerve fiber. Similarly, this also is a myelinated nerve fiber. Now you can see in this diagram, so the synaptic terminals which communicates with the muscles. So this is the muscle, right? Now this is the cyton, this is the axon, and these are the telodendrites. So telodendrites ends with the presynaptic terminals which communicate with the muscles, right? Now here you see in the other diagram there are number of Schwann cells. These are the nucleus of the Schwann cells, and you see there are the myelin sheath is not a continuous sheath. It has number of constrictions in the throughout the length of the axon. So these are called as nodes of Ranvier. Now let us see the properties of neurons. There are mainly two properties of neurons. First one is the excitability or irritability, and the second one is conductivity. Excitability is the ability to receive and respond to a stimulus, whereas conductivity is the transmission of excitation. So here you see what is excitability or irritability. This means they can be stimulated to produce an impulse, which is also called as an action potential, or tiny electrical current. The second property, conductivity. This means that the neurons are also able to transfer an impulse along the full length of their axons and then on to the other neurons, muscles, and glands, like the electrical wiring in your house. So, conductivity means it can conduct, it can transfer the information or an impulse along the axon, then to the neurons, then to the muscles, or to the other glands. Now you see this exchange occurs through their particular channels, that is from the neuron to the neuron or neuron to the muscle. So these are called as ion channels in the plasma membrane. And these ion channels are of different types. First one is the non-gated and the second one is the gated ion channels. These non-gated ion channels, these are the passages which has the door-like structure, which is also called as gated. The non-gated channels do not have any gates, they do not have any doors, so they always remain open. Whereas the gated channels or the gated ion channels, they have gates which is not opened all the time, which is closed and open frequently, depending upon the whether it is voltage or chemically, mechanically or light. Now these gates are controlled by various factors. First one is the voltage, which is called as voltage gated ion channels. Second, chemically gated ion channels. Thirdly, mechanically gated ion channels. And fourthly, light gated ion channels. These voltage gated ion channels open in response to change in the membrane potential. Secondly, chemically gated ion channels opens in response, it is opens or closes in response to the chemical stimulus. Third one, chemically gated ion channels opens or closes in response to the pressure. And fourthly, light gated ion channels, they close or open in response to the light. So here you see these are the channels. These are the channels. This is the plasma membrane and these are the channels and these are the doors. So which are guarded by so many factors like the voltage, light, chemicals, etc. So these are the voltage gated ion channels which are closed and these are the voltage gated channels, ion channels which are opened. So you can see here the gates are closed and here the gates are opened. Thank you, students.